So this is a answer video to my nephew, Geraint Roberts. Yeah, he asked me a question. He said, which was my rarest, in my collection, which was my rarest and oldest things that I collect. Well, these Yankees 1003, there's plenty of them around, but they're pretty rare and they're difficult to find, but they're not something that comes up very often. You can go on the internet, there's quite good information on these. If you put a Yankee 103, 105 in the internet, there's loads of information, plenty of information on these. Loads of pictures, lots of sales. We can trace this back to 1920. We can trace these back. So we think around about the 1920s these are. So that's quite old, isn't it? Over 100 years old. You can, the reliable set. Now there's no name, no date on these. So it's quite difficult to date some tools, you know, because some tools have had a hard life, some tools haven't had so much a hard life. But in this particular case, it's quite easy because this set, the reliable ratchet box spanner set, is this the reliable, exactly the same. The same thing is in there, and we know the date on this because this is a Buck and Hickman book and it's a 1935 book. So you find the book, so they're fairly easy to trace, fairly easy to date, you know. Let me just put that out of the way. So that's not too bad. That's so you know the date, you know how old it is, you know where you're looking at. That's a 100-year-old. That's a 100-year-old. And so you're looking for a date. Then you're looking for a name. Now Thomas Chatwin is a Birmingham maker. Now we don't put dates on our tools. Why did they put dates then and why don't they now? Dates would be so handy. Who knew this long ago that this would still be here 100 years later, and Reggie on the road would be looking at it thinking, how old is this and when was it made and who made it? So when they've got a name on them and a date, but you don't see that. You see a maker's name, but you don't see the dates on modern tools. And why particularly did they put a date? Were they proud of putting a date on tools? So this is fairly easy to follow and to track, except Thomas Chatwin, again, there's quite a lot of other stuff. But when it comes to certain tools like taps and dies and these are quite, they're quite difficult to find. I'm holding my hand. I'm holding the phone in one hand and trying to use the strap. So when a tool has got a name and it's got a date, you know, you've got an idea what you're dealing with, don't you? When you can find a tool and it's got its label with it, then you can trace that back to the book, can't you? You can look at them in the book. The internet is full of these because this is been going a long time, still exists today, so it has a history, it's been updated. But trying to find information on tools that come across and with dates on them, again 1915, Thomas Chatwin, Birmingham. Wow, there's very little information, very so difficult to find, and you know, and thank goodness they had the room and the space, and they put the name and the date on everything. Thomas Chatwin, Birmingham. So, is this the rarest? Is this the oldest? I'm sure I've got older stuff here, but positively identifying it and then positively putting a date on it is so difficult. And again here, look, this is 1918. This is Thelwall Griffiths and Thelwall. Yeah, Thelwall and Griffiths and Thelwall. Now this is even more difficult to try and find. You know, we all Google it, don't we? We all Google everything, don't we? But what a thing to try and find on this one. This is even more difficult to find. I don't see these at all. So yeah, what's the oldest? I don't know, I couldn't tell you. What have I done now? I've moved something, something's moved. There we are. And what's the rarest? I mean, we have got sets here. I mean, we suspect these. We don't know. We suspect these are going back to the 1800s. These sets, mainly because of the styling of them. But there's no name and there's no date on them. So why did some sets have dates on, some dates have name, and why is there no name and no date on this? And some of them, some of the older taps and die sets that I've got in under here, the older style, they're definitely older, but showing it and proving it and having a name, having a stamp is more difficult, way more difficult. Same as the wrenches. You go by the style. When they come in the book, you know, they stopped making wrenches with wooden handles, didn't they? And monkey wrenches. So you're always looking for a faint die. So these have all been picked up rusty. These were all began. This is what we do. We pick up knackered rusty tools. Oh, not knackered, but rusty tools, and we bring them back to life, don't we? Yeah, which is all part of the fun and part of the searching. So it's quite an interesting hobby, especially when you get started on the books. You know, what were we, 116? No, 160 something it was. When you get these sort of books, they're absolutely fantastic. They're invaluable. And how have the, you know, this, for instance, how has this managed to survive? They are, look. There's 35. Where were we? You can go by the style and what was going in the books to try and date them. It's you know, and knowing what they called them, you pick things up. Let me just. There we are. Look. See, a lot of them. You find the picture of them, and then you work through. That's why these books. The trouble with the internet is you have to know exactly what you're looking for. You have to know the name of what you're looking for. We all call them monkey wrenches, and if you put a monkey wrench in there, you might pick up the wrench bit. But that one was a Williams agricultural wrench. That's what they called it. That was handler, you know, machinist's knife-handled wrench. So it's so much, they're all called different names. And if you don't know that name, Clyburn, you don't know, if you never put Clyburn in your computer, you'd never know this lot exists. So that's why it's so great finding the books and then flicking through the books, you know, as you're looking for something else. A podger, look. a podger-ended spanner. If you saw that, you think, what the hell is that? You need the books and the pictures to identify the name and the item and the style. And that's why these are fantastic sources of reference. Always pick up the books, because these are going to die. These books will end and they'll stop making, they'll never make this book again. They'll never make these books again. And okay, they might have copied them. They might be in the computer. They might be on Google. They might be available. But if you didn't know to look for Buck and Hickman, you'd never find them. So you need to, you know, this is why it's fun. That's why these books need to exist. And go to any recycling centre, go to a lot of the charity places. There's so much print. Our history in print is being decimated. Absolutely decimated, our history in print. And when they've gone, they've gone. And nobody will replace them. And they'll be in a computer somewhere, and nobody will ever be able to find them again. Which is a real sad pity, that is, yeah. It's really sad. So we are custodians. We are. And wherever these end up, you know, because we're not going to, you'd be lucky if we get another 20 or 30 years. You'd be very lucky if I find myself in a position that I've still got these in 30 years. They'll be ongoing to the next custodian. But if that custodian, if that other person isn't interested or won't keep them and pass them on, how the hell have these survived? Haven't these got a fantastic story? This for instance, how has this survived? Where's it been? What story could this tell us? What work, when it was working, what work was it doing? What was it working on? And then obviously, we guess it's been under a bench. How many bankruptcies? This has been through 2 world wars. Why has it not been burnt down? Why was it not bombed? How many bankruptcies? You know, the age of this, the firms come and go. All these firms come and they go. And they've survived a bankruptcy. You know, if you'd get somebody, if you get a scrap man, he'd want that for weight. They want to melt this down. They want a metal, don't they? Or maybe a blacksmith would say, oh, this is a fancy, great piece of metal. They'd warm it up and bash it and make it into another shape. It's just fascinating. It's just amazing that that these have survived, and fate has brought them to, as tool collecting community, fate has brought them to in our hands, and it's our duty to care for them and carry them on their journey so they last another 100 years. Yeah, but how are we going to manage to do that? Goodness only knows. Who knows how, where they're going to go. How many will fall by the wayside? So yeah, it's a funny thing. Once you get into them and you start looking at the story and what they are, we are custodians of history, aren't we? We're helping these on their journey into history. Well, that's how I feel about it anyway. You might think I'm a bit of a weirdo. I don't know.